Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at my new studio workstation right after the intro. Okay everyone, so today this video is going to be two parts. I'm just going to go over the components that I used in the system, the cost of those components, and then the second part is going to be the actual building of the machine itself. Now, I sped things up and I didn't record the whole build process. That would have been really long. Another thing I want to say really quick is I don't build PCs every day, so if there's some things that I did that I shouldn't have done or some things that I didn't do that I should have done, try to cut me a little bit of a break, but certainly put them down in the comments to help others. So let's go ahead and get started. Just a quick reminder, folks, do us a favor and hit that thumbs up button. It helps us out and it helps other YouTubers find quality content. Oh, and don't forget, click on subscribe and then click the bell and you'll get notified anytime we add new content. I have some components here that are highlighted in orange. Those are components I took from the old system and transferred to the new system. The main component here is going to be the graphics card. Any of you that have been trying to get a graphics card or anything with a processor in it for that matter, but especially graphics cards, you know how extremely difficult it can be. Now, I've been trying for quite a while to get my hands on an RTX 30 series. I wanted the 3080 or the 3080 Ti or the 3090. Those are the three cards I'm trying to get my hands on to be able to do video editing. And I'm not willing to pay scalping prices for them either. So with that said, you see that I took the GTX 1080 from my old system that was purchased in September of 18, so not quite 3 years old, and I transferred that into the new system. And I plan to use that until this whole thing with the GPU shortage gets under control and I can actually get myself a new GPU for retail price or MSRP and not these insane prices the scalpers are charging. So enough about GPUs, enough about scalping. Let's get to this build. So the three other components that I transferred over were my Elgato 4K 60 Pro HDMI capture card, and then my two Samsung Evo Plus M.2 SSDs. And you can see here when I purchased those items, fairly recent. Those were actually the oldest items that I transferred over from March of 2020. So a little over a year old. I went with the Maingear Vybe case and the Maingear Ignition 1000 watt 80 plus platinum power supply. I chose the Ryzen 9 5950X. The Threadrippers were extremely expensive and I paid $800 for this, and that was about the top that I was going to pay for a CPU, and this should be more than enough for what I'm doing. It's a 16 core 32 thread CPU and performs very well. I went with the Corsair 240mm water cooling kit. I did purchase thermal grease, but I didn't need that because the Corsair H100i came pre-applied with thermal. So the next thing on the list here is the Wi-Fi 6 adapter. Went with the Asus PCE AX3000. This actually, when you install the drivers, the funny thing is it shows up as an Intel Pro wireless Wi-Fi adapter, which is interesting. I did put my USB hub and my extension cable on here, and the main reason I put those on here is because of where I have my CPU located. Everything I plug and unplug, it's much more convenient for me to plug into a hub versus trying to plug into the case itself. The motherboard was the Asus ProArt B550 Creator. and I did install 128 gigabyte of Corsair Vengeance LPX memory. So we can see the processor and the memory are the two most expensive items on this list. So let me go ahead and get to the totals real quick. So the total I spent on this particular build was, including the 6% sales tax in my state, $2,527.99. Before sales tax, $2384.89. And then I also put in the prices of the components to show the total value of the system. But these are the components I transferred over. They come out to $1179.87 before tax. And after I add the $70.80 sales tax, I come up with $1250.67, giving me a grand total. If I were to build this system with all these components at these prices, it would be $3,778.66. So that's pretty much it, folks. This is what I'm working with. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the build. Okay, so we're going to start off here with the old machine. And the old machine, I'm going to take out the components that I'm going to use in the new machine. That would be the components I outlined earlier: video card, the HDMI capture card, and my two M.2 SSDs. Now I have sped up this portion of the video so that it doesn't take an extremely long time. Here we can see the new machine. Case is a Maingear Vybe. This is where the power supply is going to go. This is the Maingear Ignition 1000 watt. And this is an 80 plus platinum power supply. And I believe the spec said it was 92% efficient, which is good. And this is modular. So we have the power supply itself, and then in the other bag are all of the cables. This is the motherboard. And we can see all the various items that come along with the motherboard. Look at it. It's an attractive looking motherboard. Here we're going to secure it. If you notice, I'm starting the screws out, just putting them in loose, and then I'll tighten them down, moving from one side to the other. Next, we're going to take off the heat sinks for the M.2 SSDs. And you'll notice on the bottom we have thermal compound. And we'll install them in the slot. These don't require any screws. This motherboard just has the plastic latches. Then we'll take the tape off of the thermal compound and install the heatsink. Next, we're going to have the processor and the water cooling kit. And here we have the memory. Each one of the modules, we're just going to line them up, push down and snap them into place. I want to push down really hard, just with enough force to get the latches to engage. Next, we'll take a look at the Corsair water cooling kit here. Now we're going to take off the Intel mounting bracket and install the mounting bracket for the AM4 socket. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to relocate the fans that are installed in the front of the case. I'm going to relocate them to the top, and the radiator for my water cooler is going to be mounted to the front of the case as an air intake, and the fans in the top are going to exhaust the air out. And we're going to install the fans for the water cooler. Again, in this installation, the airflow is going to be coming to the inside of the case. So these are going to be pulling air in, and then the fans that were in the front of the case as intake fans are going to be in the top as exhaust fans. So we're going to have 3 exhaust fans, 1 in the back, 2 in the top. And they're all going to be near each other, and they're all going to pull any hot air that's in the case out. I'm going to clean the top of the CPU with a little alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. And when we're tightening the cooler down to the CPU, we don't want to over tighten it. Just want to get it snug, and then maybe a quarter to a half of a turn more, and that's it. Now here you'll see that I'm mounting what were the intake fans to the top of the case to be exhaust fans at this point. And now we're going to go ahead and put our components that we took out of the old system into the new system. Starting with our GPU. Next, our HDMI capture card. Now, one thing to note with this particular motherboard, the PCI X1 ports are actually shared with the secondary M.2 slot. And then here we can see what it looks like finished. I did not include installing all the wires. But here's what it looks like, all finished. Okay, so that's pretty much it, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. There were some sections that I may have missed or that didn't come out correctly and I didn't include them. Please try to keep in mind that I don't build PCs every day, so I'm not necessarily the most efficient at doing so, and I'm not the most efficient at recording the process either, so I may have missed one or two things. But certainly, if I missed anything, if I didn't do anything right, please go ahead and put that in the comments, and I'll be sure to take note of it. Folks, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps other YouTubers find quality content, and we really appreciate it. Click on subscribe, and then click the bell to get notified whenever new content is added. As always, comments, questions, and suggestions are welcome below, and we thank you very much for watching.